Right there now. Oh, look.
Anyway.
Cool, Sadhbh.
Yeah.
Jamie Coleman did it.
He looks like a penguin
Oh my
inside it.
God. That's brilliant.
He's a penguin.
Dressed up as penguin.
He's like dressed up as a penguin, Dad, and he's in the flock of penguins or something.
I'm glad you liked the picture.
We looked at the pictures on Instagram.
All right. Well, I'll just give you a little bit of an introduction to me and who I am and some of the work I've done, and
Okay,
then we'll get to that long list of questions you've got, mate.
Yeah, but I do not know what introduction means.
It's just the start. He's just going to just listen for a while. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about how I got to taking this picture. So, I am a marine biologist, and I grew up absolutely besotted with wildlife and any excuse to go outdoors and to go to the coast as well. And one of my favorite places was going up to see my gran, and she lived in Yorkshire, and I would go to Bempton Cliffs to see the puffins and to see the gannets. And basically glued to anything that this man was presenting. So this is Sir David Attenborough, and he was my hero growing up. And he is the reason, I guess, that I do a lot of the things that I do now. And so I studied marine biology at university. So that's everything to do with the ocean. It's not all whales and dolphins. It's seaweed, it's what is in all of the tiny little bacteria and plankton that make up everything in the ocean, and also seabirds as well. So that was a part of what we were looking at. When I left university, I went to seabird heaven. I lived on a group of islands off the northeast coast of England. They're called the Farne Islands, and they had lots of these guys. Do you know what these are? Oh.
The bird.
I know why it's called, and I know why, and really, it's a really easy question. A puffin.
Yeah, I'm impressed. You'd be surprised how many people don't know what they look like. Do you know how they carry so many fish?
Yeah, because like their beak's really big.
Yeah, and they've got little spikes on the top of their mouth so they can stick the fish.
Yeah, like they got spikes in their mouth, they stick it up there, and they also got and then when they need more, they just pop it inside their mouth, but that's how they get more food.
I was talking to someone a few days back who said that they'd seen a picture with 120 fish in one puffin's mouth.
Whoa.
That's a lot, isn't it?
It's a greedy puffin, or a greedy puffin stick that it's taking the fish back to.
Yeah, really greedy, like super greedy. That bird can only get one fish at a time, way slower than the other.
So you see, this bird here, this is called an Arctic tern, and these are one of my favorite. It's an Arctic tern, and they're one of my favorite birds because every single morning we have thousands of these on our doorstep, and they will peck you and they'll poo on you. And we used to put hats on, and they had bubbles in the hats to protect our heads, and they learned that pecking us on the head no longer worked, so they would sit on our shoulder and peck us in the cheeks. So quite clever birds. And you would find this annoying, but you see that tiny little ring on the leg of the bird. Can you see it on its right leg?
Yeah.
It's got a tiny little, yeah. So we put these tiny little rings on them and also tiny little computers on them to see where they go. And they go all the way down to Antarctica every single year when they're not breeding. So an Arctic tern has a bit of a lifespan very similar to mine, in that I go from Arctic to Antarctica quite a lot. But one of these guys in a single year will travel 147,000 kilometers. So that's a lot. In its lifespan, it's going to fly to the moon and back 6 times.
The moon.
Well, the equivalent. She doesn't actually.
Yeah, really, really long. And just by putting that tiny ring and a tiny little computer on their legs, we can tell you about them.
Oh wow!
But when I left the Farne Islands, I always wanted to go to this place. This place is called South Georgia, and I applied and I applied and I applied, and I got lots of feedback, and they said you need to go and live somewhere overseas before you can come back. And so I actually left the sea for a little bit, and I worked with these guys. Do you know what they are?
Yeah, they're jaguars.
That is incredibly good knowledge. Yeah. I was working with jaguars in Brazil.
Well, like how I know them is because like I know lots of them. I know every single big cat, and they're basically all my favorite animals. Every single big cat on Earth is my favorite animal. Like really every cat in the world is my favorite animal, and also puffin. So that's kind of how I know.
Well, lucky that I included a picture of them or a video of them. This video I took in Brazil, and you will know that those rosettes, those patterns on the side, every single individual has its own pattern.
Yes.
And so by taking pictures and videos of these, we can identify who they are. And we were working with farmers to try and protect them and stop farmers. Unfortunately, farmers sometimes, because jaguars will occasionally eat cows, the farmers will sometimes shoot them. And so we were trying to stop this from happening and understand a bit more about jaguars. And they are beautiful things. So a good choice of favorite animal.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go down here, and finally I had my overseas experience. And so I got a job with the British Antarctic Survey. And you see South Georgia there? So it's between South America and Antarctica. It's a subantarctic island. And I traveled 8,000 miles all the way down to Antarctica. And in order to get there, you have to catch a flight with the Royal Air Force. And it takes 18 hours. And then you get on a ship, and you sit on that ship for 4 days from the Falkland Islands all the way down to South Georgia. And then you get to South Georgia, and it is incredible. You see all of those penguins there?
Are there beds on that boat? Because you have to sit on that boat for 4 days.
There's lots of beds and a lot of people, because it's bouncing and waving and you're all over the place all the time. A lot of people don't move from their beds for those entire 4 days because they feel so sick. So beds are very necessary. And you get to South Georgia, and the wildlife is incredible. And we have 4 species of penguins. Do you know your penguin species?
What do you say?
Do you know how are you with penguins? Do you know what any of these species of penguins are?
No, but one thing I do know about penguins is that some of them can live in really hot places as well.
In really hot places as well, yeah. You get them in Africa, South Africa as well. You get them all the way down to Antarctica. And on South Georgia, we had these 4 species.
Yeah.
We didn't have these 2, and now when I go to Antarctica, we see these 2. So this is the Adelie penguin and the emperor penguin, and here we have the 4 species found on South Georgia. So there are, you see these, the ones with the yellow crest?
A good question.
No, finish this thing and then you do all your questions at the end.
So we had several million of these. And penguins, they look a little bit ridiculous. They're not very good on land, and people like to laugh at them because they're quite gangly, and as you can see, they're not the most gracious. Very entertaining to watch, but they are adapted for life in the ocean. So they only come back to land in order to have their chicks. And so they do their flying underneath the water. You see how thin their flippers are, and they're going to use that to push them through the water. And these penguins, they can swim under the water as fast as the fastest man on the planet can run. So Usain Bolt, fastest man on the planet, and he can run as fast as a penguin can swim. And they're very hardy animals. We also had lots of these. This is an elephant seal pup. And we had hundreds of thousands of these. They turn into this guy. So this is an adult elephant seal. So you see that big nose that it's got that looks very much like an elephant. And the males have this.
One.
Yeah. And he's going to use that nose like a microphone. So he's going to shout to all of his partners, to everyone on the beach, and let them know who he is. And he's going to use that nose in order to make that much, much louder. And they weigh as much as a hippopotamus, nearly as much as a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So they're huge animals. You can see me there looking very small in comparison. But they are very cute when they're little. But this guy already is 3 weeks old, and maybe even 4 weeks. They're born, and when they're born, they weigh about 30 to 40 kilograms. And within 3 weeks, so that's probably a similar weight to you, maybe a little bit more. And then in 3 weeks, they're going to drink lots and lots and lots of milk from their mum. And then their mum's going to go, and they'll never see their mum again after 3 weeks. And in those 3 weeks, they'll have turned from the size of you to twice the size of me. So they grow really, really quickly, get fat really, really quickly. We also had 4 million of these. Do you know what it is?
A grey seal? Wait, no.
Sea lion.
I meant to say sea lion.
Good guess. Yeah. So so you see the difference here between 2 of the seals. So this is a true seal, an elephant seal. You see how it's kind of flat down, kind of completely flat, and this one is sat up. So it's part of the family of the sea lions. It's actually called a fur seal because although it has the same adaptations as a sea lion, which means it can stand up like that, you look at how thick that fur is on it, which means that it can stay in these really cold places. So one of the thickest coats, and we had 4 million of these, and I was working with these every single day. We also had several million seabirds. So these are albatross here and giant petrels. So it is incredible. And the reason that everything is there is because of this. Now this is called an Antarctic krill. And if you weighed every single person on this planet, they would weigh less than if you weighed every single one of these in Antarctica.
Wow.
So that is what all of the whales, all of the seals, all of the penguins, most of the fish, most of the squid are eating, is this tiny little thing. And so I was trying to understand how healthy and how many krill there were. And so this meant I was looking at things that were feeding on them. As I said, the penguins and the seals do this. And so there are lots of different ways you can look at how, well, what would you do? If you wanted to see what a seal was eating, what would you do? How would you see what it was eating?
Well, I'd look at its mouth and see what the head looks like or the tail looks like.
How do we know that Jesse's been eating the bird food?
Because it's ended up in their poo.
Yeah. So unfortunately, a big part of science and a big part of my job was looking at seal and penguin poo. But it's amazing. And from looking at the poo, I sieve away all of the smelly stuff, that disappears, and you're left with lots of bones, and also those krill, they have this hard shell, so like a crab, they have this shell. And so I can look at the size of that shell and the weight of the shell, and the size of the bones, and I can tell you the species of fish that they've been eating. I can tell you the age of the fish they've been eating. I can tell you the size of the fish they've been eating. And exactly the same with squid, with krill. So yeah, we did a lot of work looking at seal poo. And also a really easy way is just looking at pups. So I know a mum is eating lots and lots of food if her pup is getting fat. If her pup is growing really quickly, then I know her parents, or her mother, sorry, is feeding lots. And so we weighed them lots, put them in a bag and weigh them and see where they go, see how heavy they're getting, how quickly they're growing. And this picture in the bottom shows me with a pup here, and you see it's got a tag on it. We put the same tags on their mothers and we see exactly where they're fishing. So if I can look at their poo and I can see exactly what they're eating, and then look at where they go to forage, some of them go hundreds of kilometers away, then I know where the krill is and I can try and protect the krill. So this is one of those fur seal.
That one looks cool because it looks like it has big flippers, and it's like really, really different to the other ones because it's like more yellow and orangish color.
Yeah, it's like a golden retriever or a golden Labrador, isn't it? You see how big those flippers are for standing up. And one of these fur seals can run much quicker than I can on the land. So you will think of seals as very slow, but if they're chasing me, I have to jump up somewhere high to get away from them. Another way we can do it is this. This is a video. I'm not sure how well it will work.
So what is that?
So have you got any pets?
We got 2 dogs, and when I'm 10, I might be allowed to get 2 more, maybe 1 more, or a cat.
Nice. Well, when you get your pets for the first time, the vet puts a tiny little chip in their back. And that means that if your dog or your cat gets lost, then they can scan it and they can tell who that dog or that cat belongs to. And so we've done that to all of these penguins. And every time they walk over this bridge, we can tell you exactly who they are. And you see that step in the middle, that's a scale. So I can tell you penguin number 12 weighs 7 kilograms today. And then it's going to go and it's going to feed its chick. And then that night it's going to, or the following morning, it's going to leave, and I'm going to weigh it again. And I'm going to see how light it is after it's fed all of its food to its chick. And try and think, how much food might a penguin give to its chick? You think, have you done percentages? Do you know percentages yet?
Percentages.
Percentages, no.
Or fractions?
No.
No.
So this penguin is going to feed half of its body weight. Its stomach is so full of krill, and then it's going to throw it all up into its chick's mouth that it's going to be half the size. So they're giving a lot of food to their chicks. And just by having this tiny little bridge here, that's what we can tell. I am going to answer lots of your questions, but I also now am very lucky to travel to other places around the world. So
wow, a polar bear.
this is a few pictures. So just in case you had questions about other things to do with marine biology, my current job very recently, this is actually a year ago, on a night dive in a place called French Polynesia, and all of these sharks are hunting. I often go up to the Arctic and I see these guys. You know what this is?
Yeah, it's a polar bear. Do you ever see Arctic foxes?
Yeah, we see Arctic foxes. Normally when I see them though, it is in the summer. So in the summer, in the Arctic, a lot of the places, they lose their snow. And so the Arctic foxes are much darker in coloration. So I've only ever seen 2 completely white Arctic foxes. And then 2 weeks ago, I was in the Galapagos. That was the last place I worked. And I was tagging these guys. So these are Galapagos sea lions. So yeah, I have lived in Antarctica for 2 years. I go there every single year now. I teach people about wildlife when I go there. Sometimes I go there on ships, and sometimes I go there for research. And I travel the rest of the time doing research and working with marine wildlife in between the Arctic and Antarctica. So have you got any questions for me?
Yes, I got a list of questions.
All right.
Let him say. Tell him. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Tell him that your relation went to Antarctica with Ernest Shackleton. He did. Go on. No. Can you hear me, Jamie?
I can hear you.
Sorry, this is Sadhbh's dad here. I was just telling her to tell you that her relation went to Antarctica on the first expeditions with Ernest Shackleton a long, long time ago, with Tom Queen as well.
Yeah, with Crean.
And South Georgia, they were there, weren't they?
I do not remember.
It was a very long time ago. I'd be impressed if you remembered.
Yeah. So, have you got questions, Sadhbh?
Yes, I must have some.
Okay. So, do you
do underwater experiments?
Yes, so in Antarctica, my colleagues do underwater experiments. I stay above water, but I have done lots of underwater experiments in warmer ocean. So I do most of my diving where the water is warmer. I have worked with just coral reefs in Mexico and in Bahamas, and looking at marine protected areas. So looking at, if you stop all fishing, how quickly fish come back to an area. But my friends or my colleagues in Antarctica, they go diving even in the winter. So when the ice is formed all the way around station, they go out with a chainsaw, they cut a hole in the ice, and then they go through that hole in the ice, and they have a rope attached to them so that they don't get lost and they can find their way back up. And they go underneath the ice and they look for life. And there's a lot of life, and there's so much color in Antarctica. When you shine a torch on the floor in Antarctica, there's so much color. It's beautiful.
I'll just ask your last question next, okay?
Do sea turtles ride the East Australian Current every year?
Good question. I have only ever been to Australia once. And in fact, I've only ever dived in the East Australia Current once. And in fact, that was in New Zealand. And I didn't see any turtles on a dive, but I did see them from the boat that I was on. So, but it's a great question.
This one.
Which one?
That one.
Which one?
Oh.
Mark them. Yeah. So which is the next one you want to ask? Good work. So do you want to ask number 2?
Yeah.
So do you find much plastic rubbish in Antarctica?
Do you find much plastic rubbish in Antarctica?
That is a great question. Well, plastic pollution is everywhere, unfortunately. Now, around the world, if you look at the oceans, there's lots of, like a drain pipe, I guess. So when you let water out of the sink, you see it spins around in circles. And so there's lots of those going around the oceans. And it means that a lot of the plastic that is put into the ocean, or almost all of the plastic that is put into the ocean, is put into the ocean around the warmer areas where there are lots of people. And so because it's spinning round and round and round, it's very difficult for it to sail all the way down to Antarctica, because they're different bodies of water. Saying that, yes, we still see some plastics, but it's not as bad as other places on the planet. The wandering albatross, this is the largest bird, flying bird on the planet. Its wingspan is 3.5 meters, which is twice my height. They are huge. And when we work with them, they sometimes, as a self-defense, so protecting themselves, they will throw up their last meal on you. It smells horrible. 2 years ago, I had a wandering albatross throw up 2 steaks on me. 2 steaks ready to be cooked. But those steaks were inside the plastic wrapper still. So we still do see some, but in Antarctica, it is slightly protected by the oceans.
Guys, just let you know, we only have about 1.5 minutes left before Zoom cuts out. So Sadhbh, if you have loads more questions and want to keep going, let me know and I can send on a second Zoom link. Or if you're happy to end it there, that's fine as well.
Well,
It does have 9 more questions.
Yeah, just 9.
Just 9. Will I send you a new Zoom link so just to make sure we don't get cut off?
Probably, I think the old one works, doesn't it? Anyway, yes,
I think it might do.
Yeah.
We can try clicking the old Zoom link. So
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
I'll end it there
Thanks.
anyway and we can go back in.